Retirement withdrawal strategies making your money last. You know what's absolutely terrifying? I met a guy last month, we'll call him Robert, who saved $1.2 million for retirement. Everything by the book. Maxed out his 401k for 30 years, lived below his means, did everything the financial gurus told him to do. He retired in January 2008 at age 63, right before the market collapsed. He's now 79 years old, and you know what? He's completely broke, $0, living off social security checks, and his kids are helping pay his rent. But here's the part that'll really mess you up. His co-worker, Janet, retired the exact same month with only $450,000 as less than Robert. And she still has over $900,000 in her account today. She's taking vacations, helping her grandkids with college, living her best life. Same employer, same market conditions, same retirement date. One person has everything, the other has nothing. What was the difference? It wasn't luck, it wasn't better stock picks. It was their withdrawal strategy, and that's what nobody talks about because everyone's obsessed with how much you need to save, but almost nobody teaches you how to actually spend it without going broke. My name is John, and I spend way too much time thinking about retirement withdrawal strategies. Like, an unhealthy amount of time. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but here's why I'm obsessed. I've watched people who spent 40 years doing everything right completely sabotage their retirement in the first 36 months because they used the wrong withdrawal strategy. If you're someone who's approaching retirement or already retired and you're terrified about running out of money, or if you're younger and want to actually understand how this works before it's too late, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Look, here's what most people don't realize. Saving for retirement is actually the easy part. I know that sounds insane, especially if you're struggling to max out your 401k right now, but stay with me. Saving has one simple rule. Put away as much as you can, as consistently as you can, for as long as you can. Done. But spending in retirement? That's where it gets really complicated. Because you're not just trying to make your money last, you're trying to make it last through market crashes, inflation spikes, unexpected medical expenses, and a retirement that could last 30 or even 40 years. And you have to do all of this while actually, enjoying your life and spending the money you worked so hard to save. And here's the kicker. Most people get this catastrophically wrong. According to research from Morningstar, nearly 40% of retirees either spend too much too early and risk running out of money, or spend too little and die with massive amounts of unspent savings. Think about that. 4 out of 10 people either go broke or live like paupers when they didn't have to. Those are your only options if you don't understand withdrawal strategies. Now you might be thinking, wait, John, doesn't everyone just use the 4% rule? I've heard about that. You withdraw 4% of your portfolio in year 1, adjust for inflation each year, and you're golden. Yeah, about that. The 4% rule comes from something called the Trinity study, published back in '98. The idea was simple. If you withdraw 4% of your starting portfolio balance in year 1, then adjust that dollar amount for inflation every year after, your money should last 30 years with a high probability of success based on historical market returns. So if you retire with $1 million, you'd withdraw $40,000 in year 1. If inflation is 3%, you'd withdraw 41,200 in year 2, 42,436 in year 3, and so on. And look, the 4% rule isn't completely useless. It gave people a starting point. But here's what most people don't realize. The 4% rule was designed for a worst-case scenario retirement that started in 1966, literally one of the worst possible times to retire in modern history. It's also based on a portfolio that's 50% stocks and 50% bonds, which might not be right for you. And it assumes you're going to spend the exact same amount adjusted for inflation every single year for 30 years. Here's the thing, real life doesn't work like that. You don't spend the same amount every year. Most retirees actually spend less as they age, what researchers call the retirement spending smile. You spend more in your 60s and early 70s when you're healthy and active, less in your late 70s and 80s when you're slowing down, and then potentially more again in your late 80s and 90s if you need long-term care. Plus, and this is crucial, the 4% rule doesn't account for sequence of returns risk. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, and this is the thing that absolutely nobody talks about when they should be shouting it from the rooftops. Sequence of returns risk is the danger that you'll experience poor market returns early in retirement, forcing you to sell assets when prices are low, which permanently reduces your portfolio's ability to recover. Let me give you a concrete example because this is wild. Let's say we have two people, Sarah and Tom. They both retire with exactly $1 million. They both experience the exact same average annual return of 7% over 30 years. They both withdraw $50,000 per year, adjusted for inflation. The only difference? Sarah experiences good market years early and bad market years late. Tom experiences bad market years early and good market years late. Sarah ends retirement with over $2 million remaining. Tom runs completely out of money in year 24. Same starting balance, same average returns as same withdrawals, completely different outcomes. This is the thing that keeps me up at night. Because you don't control when market crashes happen. You can do everything right, and if you're unlucky enough to retire right before a major crash, like people who retired in 2008 or 2000 or 1973, you could be in serious trouble if you're rigidly following the 4% rule. A study by Wade Pfau, a retirement researcher, found that retirees who experienced a major bear market in the first decade of retirement had failure rates as high as 57% using the traditional 4% rule. 57%! That's basically a coin flip. So what do we do instead? Well, here's what most people don't realize. The best withdrawal strategies aren't static, they're dynamic. They adapt based on market conditions, your age, your spending needs, and your portfolio balance. Let me walk you through some strategies that actually work. First up, the guardrails approach. This strategy, developed by financial planner Jonathan Guyton and computer scientist William Klinger, uses decision rules to adjust your spending based on portfolio performance. Here's how it works. You start with an initial withdrawal rate, let's say 5%, but then you set guardrails around that rate. If your withdrawal rate increases above 6% because your portfolio has declined, you cut your spending by 10%. If your withdrawal rate drops below 4% because your portfolio has grown, you can increase your spending by 10%. You also have an inflation guardrail. If your portfolio value declines in any given year, you don't adjust for inflation that year. You keep your withdrawal at the same dollar amount. This approach forces you to tighten your belt when markets are down and allows you to spend more when markets are up. It's behavioral finance meets retirement planning. Research by Guyton and Klinger found this approach had a 99% success rate over 40-year retirements, compared to 84% for the traditional 4% rule. And here's the best part. It allowed for an initial withdrawal rate of 5.8% instead of 4%, meaning you could spend more money and have better odds of success. Next, the bucket strategy. Look, this one's super popular among retirees because it's intuitive and it addresses the psychological side of retirement spending, which is huge. Here's the idea. You divide your portfolio into 3 buckets based on when you'll need the money. Bucket 1 is your cash bucket, typically 1-2 years of expenses in a high-yield savings account or money market fund. This is what you spend from. You never have to sell stocks when the market is down because you've got cash ready to go. Bucket 2 is your short to medium-term bucket. Typically 3-10 years of expenses in more conservative investments like bonds, bond funds, or dividend-paying stocks. This bucket is designed to refill Bucket 1 periodically. Bucket 3 is your long-term growth bucket, everything beyond 10 years, invested aggressively in stocks for maximum growth potential. Every year or two, you refill the buckets. You move money from Bucket 2 to Bucket 1, and when Bucket 2 gets low, you move money from Bucket 3 to Bucket 2. But here's the key, you do this strategically. If stocks are up significantly, you move more. If stocks are down, you might wait or move less. The psychological benefit here is enormous. When the market crashes and talking heads on TV are losing their minds, you're sleeping soundly because you know you've got 5 to 7 years of expenses in buckets 1 and 2. You're not forced to sell stocks at the bottom. Third strategy, the required minimum distribution method. Now this one's interesting because it's kind of forced on you once you hit age 73 anyway for traditional IRAs and 401ks. The RMD method works like this. Each year, you calculate the required withdrawal from your retirement accounts based on IRS life expectancy tables. At age 73, you'd withdraw about 3.7% of your account balance. At 80, it's about 5.35%. At 90, it's about 8.77%. The beauty of this approach is that it's completely dynamic. If your portfolio drops, your withdrawal amount drops. If your portfolio grows, your withdrawal amount grows. You literally cannot run out of money. With this strategy, because you're always withdrawing a percentage of what remains, The downside, your income can be volatile, especially early in retirement when the RMD percentages are low. If you retire at 65 and need to wait until 73 to start RMDs, you'll need another strategy to bridge that gap. But here's what I find fascinating. Research by Scott Cederberg and colleagues found that a withdrawal strategy based on the RMD tables, but started at retirement rather than age 73, provided higher lifetime withdrawals than the 4% rule in 96% of historical scenarios. 96%! Here's the thing that nobody talks about. The math of retirement withdrawal strategies is important, but the psychology might be even more important. I've seen retirees with $3 million in assets who are terrified to spend $8,000 a month. I've seen others with $600,000 who are booking Mediterranean cruises every year. The difference isn't the money, it's the mindset. There's actually research on this. A study from Texas Tech found that many retirees experience what they call financial trauma from living through market crashes and recessions. People who retired in 2008 and watched their portfolios get cut in half are often psychologically scarred. They underspend in retirement, even when their portfolios have fully recovered, because they're terrified of going through that again. On the flip side, you've got people who've never experienced a real bear market in retirement who are spending like money grows on trees. They're taking the cruise, buying the vacation home, helping the grandkids with college, all while withdrawing 7% or 8% of their portfolio, and they don't realize they're setting themselves up for disaster until it's too late. The best withdrawal strategy in the world doesn't matter if you're too scared to spend or too reckless to preserve your capital. Okay, so what do you actually do with all this information? Let me give you some concrete, actionable steps. Step 1. Calculate your baseline needs versus discretionary wants. Sit down and separate your expenses into two categories: non-negotiable needs, housing, food, healthcare, insurance, and discretionary wants like travel, entertainment, gifts. Your needs should ideally be covered by guaranteed income sources, Social Security, pensions, annuities. Your wants can come from portfolio withdrawals. If your needs exceed your guaranteed income, you need to be extra conservative with your withdrawal strategy. Consider annuitizing a portion of your portfolio to create more guaranteed income. Step 2. Stress test your plan. Use a retirement calculator that accounts for sequence of returns risk. Free tools like FireCalc or CFireSim let you test your withdrawal strategy against every historical 30-year period in market history. If your plan has less than a 90% success rate, you need to either save more, spend less, or work longer. Step 3. Build flexibility into your spending. Here's what most people don't realize. The retirees who succeed aren't the ones with the perfect withdrawal rate. They're the ones who can adapt. They can cut back when markets are down. They can delay the kitchen renovation or skip the annual vacation if their portfolio has taken a hit. Research by Michael Finke found that retirees who maintained spending flexibility could safely withdraw 20 or 30% more than those who insisted on the same inflation-adjusted withdrawal every year. Step 4. Consider a hybrid approach. Look, you don't have to pick just one strategy. Many successful retirees use a combination. Maybe you use the bucket strategy for peace of mind, but you also implement guardrails so you know when to adjust your spending. Or maybe you use RMDs for your IRA withdrawals but supplement with strategic Roth conversions in low-income years. Step 5. Plan for healthcare costs. This is huge and almost everyone underestimates it. Fidelity estimates that the average 60-year-old couple retiring today will need about $315,000 to cover healthcare costs in retirement. That's not counting long-term care, which could add another $50,000 to $300,000 per person. You need a separate strategy for healthcare spending. Consider funding an HSA during your working years, buying long-term care insurance in your 50s, or setting aside a dedicated healthcare bucket in your portfolio. Now, if you're still with me, let's talk about some advanced strategies that can significantly improve your withdrawal success rate. Tax-efficient withdrawal sequencing. Most people don't realize that the order in which you withdraw from different account types matters enormously. The conventional wisdom used to be, drain taxable accounts first, then tax-deferred, then Roth. But that's often wrong. A better approach for many retirees is to do strategic Roth conversions in the early years of retirement, especially the years between retirement and when you start Social Security and RMDs. You're in a lower tax bracket, so you convert traditional IRA money to Roth at relatively low tax rates. This reduces future RMDs, creates more tax-free growth, and gives you tax diversification for future withdrawals. Research by William Meyer and William Reichenstein found that optimized withdrawal sequencing could increase after-tax wealth by 10% to 20% compared to conventional strategies. That's enormous. Social Security timing. Here's what blows my mind. Social Security claiming decisions are arguably more important than your investment returns, yet most people spend more time researching which mutual funds to buy than when to claim Social Security. Every year you delay claiming between 62 and 70, your benefit increases by about 6.7% to 8% per year. That's a guaranteed, inflation-adjusted return that you can't get anywhere else. For many people, delaying Social Security and using portfolio withdrawals to fund early retirement years is the optimal strategy. A study by Wade found that incorporating delayed Social Security claiming into a retirement income strategy could improve success rates by 15 to 25 percentage points. That's the difference between an 80% success rate and a 95% success rate. Let me rapid fire some mistakes I see all the time. Mistake number 1, retiring right before a bear market and panicking. If you retire into a bear market, you need to be prepared to cut spending, work part-time for a year or two, or delay retirement. The first 5 years of retirement are absolutely critical. Don't let ego or stubbornness ruin your retirement because you're not willing to adapt. Mistake number 2, ignoring inflation. A 3% inflation rate will cut your purchasing power in half over 24 years. Your $50,000 annual withdrawal at retirement needs to be about $100,000 at age 89 just to maintain the same lifestyle. Make sure your portfolio has enough growth potential to beat inflation long term. Mistake number 3, being 100% in bonds intends retirement. Look, I get it. Stocks are scary when you're retired, but a 100% bond portfolio won't generate enough growth to last 30 years. Most retirees should still have 40-60% in stocks even in retirement. You need growth to combat inflation and longevity risk. Mistake number 4, forgetting about taxes. Every dollar you withdraw from a traditional 401k or IRA is fully taxable as ordinary income. If you're not careful, you could find yourself in a surprisingly high tax bracket in retirement. This is why tax diversification, having money in traditional Roth and taxable accounts, is so valuable. Mistake number 5, not having a plan for long-term care. The median cost of a private room in a nursing home is over $108,000 per year. If you or your spouse needs care for multiple years, it can devastate even a well-funded retirement. You need a plan, whether that's long-term care insurance, self-insuring with assets, or a hybrid approach. Here's something that keeps me up at night. People are living longer than ever, which is amazing, but it means your money needs to last longer too. A 65-year-old couple today has a 50% chance that at least one of them will live to age 92. There's a 25% chance one of them will live to 97. If you retire at 65 and live to 97, that's a 32-year retirement. Your money needs to last 3 decades or more. This is why I'm so passionate about dynamic withdrawal strategies. A rigid 4% rule might have worked when retirements lasted 15-20 years, but when you're looking at potentially 35 or 40-year retirements, you need flexibility. You need to be able to spend more when markets are up and pull back when markets are down. Look, here's the bottom line. Retirement withdrawal strategies are not one size fits all. The perfect withdrawal rate for you depends on your age, your risk tolerance, your spending flexibility, your guaranteed income sources, your tax situation, and a dozen other factors. But here's what I can tell you with absolute certainty. Doing nothing, just winging it and hoping for the best is a guaranteed way to either run out of money or die with millions unspent while you lived like you were broke. The good news? You have options. You can implement guardrails. You can use a bucket strategy. You can optimize your withdrawal sequencing. You can delay Social Security. You can build flexibility into your spending. You can stress test your plan against historical scenarios. The retirees who succeed aren't the ones with the most money. They're the ones with the best strategy. They're the ones who understand the math and the psychology. They're the ones who adapt when necessary and stay disciplined when it's hard. So here's what I want you to do. If you're within 10 years of retirement, I want you to sit down this week and actually model out your withdrawal strategy. Use a calculator. Run the numbers, stress test it, figure out where you're vulnerable. If you're already retired, look at what you're currently doing, Are you being too conservative and not enjoying your money? Or are you spending recklessly and setting yourself up for problems down the road? Be honest with yourself. And if you're young, like decades away from retirement, don't tune this out. Understanding withdrawal strategies now will change how you save. It'll change how much you think you need. It'll change your entire approach to retirement planning. The time to figure this out is not when you're 68 and the market just crashed 30% and you're wondering if you can afford groceries. The time to figure this out is right now. Make sure to subscribe if this was helpful and drop a comment below with your biggest retirement fear or question. I read every single one, and your questions often inspire future videos. Your future self is counting on the decisions you make today. Don't let them down.